Dear friends, once again, welcome to the series of talks on the theme of prayer, titled When I Cannot Pray. This is the 46th episode. Just to summarize what we have reflected so far, in my first few talks, I explained what is prayer, various definitions of prayer, and then we moved to understand different types of prayer, and then we reflected on various stages of prayer. After these reflections, we concentrated on the life of prayer in the life of Jesus. Why his prayer was so powerful and fruit-bearing. Then we delved deeper into the dynamics of the external senses: sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. Then we moved to internal senses of imagination and fantasy. And then we reflected on the memory, its dynamic in relation to prayer. And we elaborately dealt with how to practice using the memory and how it can influence our daily prayer. And finally, we tried to understand how to train our memory. In the past few talks, we tried our best to understand the faculty of intellect, how it functions, and its various dynamics. At the last two talks, we tried to make sense of this faculty, how it can be trained for our daily prayer, that is, during formal prayer and during our daily life. Now we move on to learn more about the most important of all the faculties, that is, the will. According to St. John of the Cross, the strength of the soul comprises the faculties, passions, and appetites. All this strength is ruled by the will. When the will directs these faculties, passions, and appetites towards God, turning away from all that is not God, the soul preserves its strength for God and comes to love Him with all its might. The Ascent of Mount Carmel, Book 3, Chapter 16, Paragraph 2. The will is the final arbiter and governor of the whole human person. Our actions, in as much as they are fully human actions, differ from those of the animals precisely because they are the acts of the will. The work of the will consists in governing the passions and holding in check the natural appetites through the light of the memory and the intellect. Therefore, the term will can refer to distinct aspects of the human person. There is the will as act, which refers to desiring, resolving, determining, choosing, etc. All these are forms of willing. Will is the power by which a person can direct his or her thoughts and actions and influence those of others. Will as faculty is the power within the person that tends towards acts of will. Will as subject is the person himself who wills. The human will is an amazing thing. Time after time, it has triumphed against unbelievable odds. Even the most intelligent animals do not have this endowment. Remember this. They are programmed by instinct. Because of this endowment, we can train ourselves, study, write, and make new programs for ourselves. That is why animals' capacity is relatively limited and man's capacity is unlimited. Will always tends towards good. The will takes in and reacts to information supplied by the intellect. The will inclines towards when the object is good and recedes when it perceives the object is dangerous. It is an affective attraction or repulsion. The will is the constituent of the human personality, for it represents the seat of an intelligent commitment to or rejection of some value, or the attraction towards or repulsion from some objects. It implies a distinctive kind of rapport with the object than of intellect, such as loving, intending, desiring, consenting, choosing, enjoying, or suffering. The whole human person functions under the direction of the will. Stimuli from the objects are transmitted to the intellect through the external senses for rational evaluation. The will depends upon this evaluation before it can act further. Hence, the soul's arbiter, the will, directs appetites, passions, and affections, and the whole attitude and activity of the total human person. The object of the will is the good, and it is the good that moves the will. Since God alone is the universal good, He alone can fill the will's capacity and elicit the love with which it loves necessarily. But this only occurs when God is seen by the intellect as He is in Himself. It is the nature of the will to tend towards the good and to will it. All the objects presented to it in this life are limited goods, so that its infinite amplitude cannot be filled but by God. The strength of our soul comprises the faculties, as I have earlier affirmed. These faculties are memory and intellect. The passions are hope, joy, fear, anger. Appetites of the five senses. All this strength is ruled by the will. Where can we locate the will in the human being? Can we say that the function of the will is limited only to reasoning insofar as it is in strict collaboration with the intellect? It is true that when the will directs the faculties, passions, and appetites towards God, turning away from all that is not God, the soul preserves its strength for God. Consequently, the soul comes to love Him with all its might. The function of the will in our daily life is obvious. When we take serious decisions and execute them, there is the function of the will that assures us. The function of the will is predominant when we love something and pursue it. When we decide on an adventure, we make an act of the will that under normal conditions does not give up its pursuit. We speak of achievements in our life. They are nothing but a constant orientation of our will towards that direction. If we can look into our own life, we will discover certain dominant willingness in the natural order to accomplish or to achieve something. If we want to be successful, we give our mind and heart to obtain success, right? For example, study to get a first-class result or try to get a rank. Where there is a will, there is a way, goes the saying. There is no doubt that people have achieved mighty things in this world just with the power of the will. A few examples at random will clarify the point. Thomas Alva Edison invented the incandescent bulb after thousands of experiments. It was the sheer wish of the will. The pioneers who climbed the Mount Everest with its precarious and dangerous conditions depended on their will to achieve. This was not achieved by mere physical strength, it was willed. The recent achievements we find around the world by mighty people are certainly the power of the will. People who have traveled up to the moon have manifested through their achievement that it was not the strength of the mind alone or of the body alone, but mainly the force of the will that made them see through the challenges. Innumerable other examples can be given here. It is clear that through the power of the will, mighty things can be achieved in this world. Now coming to prayer. Union with God in prayer is also accomplished when conformity between the divine and the human will is actualized. This conformity cannot be achieved without spiritual exercise and prayer, and more precisely, the willingness to experience it. Prayer is the rejuvenating tonic for strengthening the will. In prayer, we understand and discern the will of God and act upon it. When we know what actually is the will of God, we make efforts to know how to tune our will to His will. This tuning process could also be called virtual prayer or prayer in action, whereby we express our love, faith, and devotion to God primarily by actions of loving service towards our fellow human beings. The emphasis here is on purity of intention, that is, keeping the thought of God constantly in the forefront of our mind as we go about doing the work of the Lord and serving the needs of our brethren. This is how holy people and saints reach the perfection of love in this life. It is the will that ultimately experiences God in prayer. The intellect and other faculties give us information but cannot admit or deny anything without the active intervention of the will. It is the will that plays the prominent role in opting for God and emptying the soul from all that is not God. A convinced person can do anything for God when he or she knows who God is. All the delights and satisfactions of the will in the things of the world compared to all the delight that is in God are intense suffering, torment, and bitterness, says St. John of the Cross. Those who link their hearts to the delights of the world then do not understand the delight in God. Hence, they will not be capable of attaining the delights of the embrace of union with God in prayer. All the wealth and glory of creation compared to the wealth that is God is utter poverty and misery. The person who loves, possesses the things of this world is completely poor, miserable before God, and will be unable to attain the richness and glory of transformation in God, because one cannot love both God and the world. When one is too much attached to the things, cannot afford to free from such attachments unless God Himself comes to his or her aid. We will have deeper reflections on this faculty in my next talk. Dear friends, understanding the importance of the will, the faculty of the will in our daily life experience as well as during prayer can liberate us from many miseries. If we can have that determination, as Saint Teresa of Avila calls it, determined determination to pursue God experience in our daily life through prayer is the ultimate goal of our life. If we can understand that, dear friends, the trivial matters that occur in our daily life can vanish like a smoke. But still, we need to come to that experience in order to move forward in our spiritual journey. God bless you.